This is Tony Warner, and you are listening to the Fulham Focus podcast.
Fulham.
Hello, welcome to the Fulham Focus podcast. My name is Matt, and I've got everyone's best friend with me to preview Derby on Friday and also chat about our Belgian crossbar bouncer, Denis Odoi, in our latest Player in Focus feature. Who is the co-host, I hear you cry? Well, let me narrow it down for you. He's a buffoon. You've got a name in mind, haven't you? Well, you're wrong. It's not Baldo. This man is a buffoon because he lost his wallet today, and as we all know, Baldwin's wallet has never, ever left his pocket. It's Jmac, ladies and gents. What happened, mate?
Hello. Yeah, I don't know. I was just in Tesco Metro at one point, and then the next point I'm back home and my wallet's not there. I call up Tesco Metro and they weren't very helpful. So it doesn't matter.
Podcast gold, though, otherwise.
Exactly.
What a story.
Welcome to my life.
Let's talk about Denis Odoi.
Fulham.
All right, mate. Well, let's start with Denis Odoi's debut at home to Newcastle. Friday evening in the summer, first game of the season. We did win the game 1-0. It was the opening game of the 16-17 season. But the big point wasn't so much the victory, but more Denis Odoi's back trick. It was the first time we'd ever seen him. What happened?
I mean, I'm so glad, just for the record, that we're talking about Denis Odoi. But this is the first time I've never actually seen a trick done like this live at a football game. I felt very honoured to see it. I think everyone did. When you actually watch the clip of the bat trick, you just see everyone behind him in the Johnny Haynes stand just absolutely going ballistic at what they've just seen. It's a pass from Maddle from the middle of the pitch to him, just on the almost as a winger, and he just controls it and goes past Dummett. I think it's pronounced Dummett, which is one of the Newcastle fullbacks, and just makes him look like an absolute buffoon himself. It's one of the best things I've ever seen, and I think that was his first ever game for Fulham because we signed him July, just a few months before that. It was wicked.
What a way to announce your arrival! It was quality. In our promotion season in 2017-18, he quickly switched from a fullback, which is where he'd been playing most of the time before, to play centre-half to cover when Thomas Callis was injured. And when Thomas Callis came back from injury, he didn't get back in the team. Denis Odoi was playing so well in that centre-half position. All right, he made a couple of mistakes, granted. But it proved that a great utility player is such an important part to a team. What do you remember about the second half of that season? But it was obviously our 23-game unbeaten run. But Denis, in particular, he came into his own at centre half. I think
he really did. And the fascinating thing about Denis is that he's 5'10", which is the same height as me. And maybe I'm just in denial, but I don't think that's actually that short. But he can jump like nothing else. And he talks about this in an interview of the BBC in an article they did. And he's just one of those creepers that just comes up and just is able to leap out of nowhere. And I thought he was great. And the really important thing I find about his role as centre-back in that season was he learned a lot from Slavisa in that half of the season about bravery and about taking risks. And one of the most amazing things about Denis Odoi is that he just is an absolute transformer for this squad. He can play at right back, left back, centre back. He's such an asset to the club, and I just think it was the right decision for him to replace Callis because we never lost form once that happened.
I seem to remember before the promotion season, he almost went back to Belgium, and he was really close to leaving after that first season. And I don't know what held that deal up, but he ended up staying. And had he left, it could have been, that season would have been very different because he ended up being a real, a headline maker that season.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the thing is, when he left, when he nearly left, I wonder if it was the Premier League that had something to do with him staying, the idea of just being in the Premier League. Because another thing he mentioned in this interview is that he was told a lot by his sort of PE teacher growing up that he'll never be a professional footballer. And I think he really wanted to prove himself and prove to a lot of people that he deserves to be where he ended up, which is the Premier League. Yeah, just I'm so glad we held on to him because even though it was a shocker of a season, he did performed some wonderful things for us, actually. Some very Denis Odoi moments, which were terrific.
Are you talking about the season in the Premier League?
Well, you know what? Funnily enough, there was that game against Huddersfield, the one that we narrowly just won at the Cottage, and there was this moment where he tends to do this, Denis. You were going to ask me later on about what my favourite moment is, and I'll tell you, but my favourite moments are when Denis Odoi suddenly gets the ball from the right-hand side of a right-back position, for instance, and instead of going down, it goes through the middle and then just has this moment looking like Lionel Messi where the ball just doesn't leave him. And he's done it about twice now. I think he did it actually against Swansea this season as well, this season that we're currently in the Championship. There are just these moments of absolute brilliance that you never expect. He's just such a cult hero for that. It's brilliant.
This is why I always like to ask, what is your favourite goal and what is your favourite moment? Because often the favourite moments aren't necessarily goals. And, you know, for a centre-half or for a fullback even, you know, it's not necessarily going to be a goal that he scored, but one of those moments, like the back trick, certainly with Odoi. Just going back a couple of seasons, back to that 23-game unbeaten run, and there was a moment where a few people started to question his quality, certainly in the position of centre-half when we played QPR at home, and he just made a complete balls up for their equaliser. We were 2-0 up in that game and ended up drawing 2-2, and he slipped on not quite on the halfway line, but in his own half, and it just gave their guy a free run on goal. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that. And the thing is about Mr. Odoi is that he's always got a few flaws in his locker, you know, and that's what makes him such a cult hero, because he's not the obvious choice to be, you know, one of our favourite players. He's made a lot, and I mean a lot of bad decisions when on the pitch. Some really, really bad, to the point where it nearly cost us being promoted to the Premier League. But I don't know what it is. It's just something about, I think one of the best tweets I've ever read was just someone describing Denis Odoi as like pretty much embodies Fulham, for the reason that, you know, when he's good, he's good. When he's bad, he's really bad. He's flawed, but he's passionate. He's energetic, and he's kind. From what I've seen, I don't know him personally, but he's a good egg, I think.
Yeah, he's also one of those players. He's got a lot of finesse about him. He's calm on the ball. He's assured. He looks a class act at times, but then he does have those moments in him where he's just almost like his head explodes, and he just, like a Preston away this season when he got that red card. And I'm going to ask you this now, because he's had 3 red cards since he's been with the club that I can think of. The one at Brentford in the promotion season, obviously the one at Wembley, and then Preston. Which one of those was his most ludicrous, would you say?
Well, the one at Wembley, I can understand why it was, because it was a second yellow, so he had to have it, and it was a high kick towards Grealish, and yeah, Grealish was being a knob in that game anyway, so I kind of enjoyed it. But the thing is, I think Preston might be one of the ones. I think Preston could be the worst one, or maybe Brentford, one of those two, because he just sometimes does seem to just lose his head. Maybe it's due to his passion. He's been known as a good interceptor. I mean, if you look at his statistics on WhoScored.com, that's why he's, you know, pretty damn good at defending. But I couldn't tell you really. I think, but if I had to make a choice, I'd say Brentford. I think Brentford was probably the most red moment he had.
And yeah, I'd say the one at Wembley, just because of the situation. It really did leave us in the shit, and it left us all with our hearts in our mouths as well, because of obviously the magnitude of that game.
Do you know when he went off? Apparently he was, you know, he felt awful, but he was watching, you know, the game from the dressing room, and it was 5 seconds delayed to everything that was happening, and he was just apparently in just the loneliest, most scared place he says he's ever been. I can imagine that for sure. But I mean, one of my go on.
No, I was going to say also, I remember hearing him talk about when he was sent off and he had to go and watch that in the dressing room, and I don't think there was a timer on the screen that he was watching either, so he didn't have any idea how long there was left.
Oh shit! Can you imagine? I mean, it was bad enough actually watching it. You know?
And if there was a delay on it, like you said as well, then the big cheer that went up when the final whistle went, I bet he's thinking, "What?"
I think he did. I think he mentions that actually. He didn't know what was going on. But I mean, a favourite moment as well that I have of Odoi as well was that moment when he just got off on top of the goalpost, the crossbar at the top, because it was just such a moment of, you know, I got away with it, and I'm really sorry, and I love you all. It was just, that was a really sort of quite a what's the word I'm looking for? Visceral or cathartic moment, I thought, anyway.
I mean, that day at Wembley, I had quite a few to drink before the game just to calm my nerves. And
of course,
obviously, when the final whistle went, everyone's jumping into each other's arms. And I just remember looking down and thinking, who the bloody hell sat on the crossbar? And then I remember thinking, oh, Dennis, and loving it at the time. Then I woke up the next day and I thought, Denis Odoi sat on the crossbar at the end of that game. It's just one of those things. I thought, did that really happen? That was really weird.
What was even funnier was watching him try to get down was quite a hoot as well.
The legs all tangled up in the net.
Yeah.
All right, mate. Well, I'm going to ask you this. What's the first word that comes to mind when you think about Denis Odoi?
Misunderstood. I don't know, maybe misunderstood perhaps, because I don't know. I just think, or just underrated, just generally underrated. I mean, Denis Odoi, I think, some people on the Focus team have given Denis Odoi a lot of stick in the past, and, myself included, yourself included. But he's just been, I'll go back to this word again, transformer. Maybe I'll use the word transformer in the sense that he has just played in so many positions for us and just been so useful. He covers Joe Bryan. He's been covering Joe Bryan at left back this season really effectively in a couple of games. He plays right centre back when we need him. He plays right back when we need him. He played for the Belgian club before us, Lokeren, I believe it is. He was a left back. Then at Anderlecht before that, he was mostly a right back. I just think he's so useful. So instead of, long story short, I would say transformer, and a damn good one.
Okay, the first word that comes to mind when I think about him is charismatic, but I'm also gonna say resilient, because there's been times when it's looked like he's going to be out of the team. This season, I didn't expect him to feature much, to be honest. I thought, Cyrus Christie would play right back, and I thought Steven Sessegnon would also be covering, especially after the good start that he made when we played at Huddersfield. I thought he'd be in the team. Then all of a sudden, Dennis is back in, and just when you think that he's going to be out the door, he's back in the team, and he's featured in most of the games this season. So resilient is going to be the word that I'm going to use. Let's come on to the Derby game. Then we've got Derby under the lights at Pride Park on Friday night. Denis Odoi will forever go down in Fulham folklore for his header against Derby in the playoff semi-final that took us to Wembley. Talk to me about that goal and how you felt that night.
I mean, the best game I've ever been at to Craven Cottage. I'm a young fan. I mean, I haven't been supporting Fulham for very long at all, so I don't have these memories, unfortunately, of the Europa League qualify. The Juventus, the Dempsey chip, all those amazing magical moments. But that Denis Odoi header, along with everything else that happened around it, everyone standing up in the hammy end, which for the entire game, something you never see, very rarely anyway. It was one of those moments. Even watching playbacks of it just before we did this recording. Gentleman Jim and the screams they did when he scored and everyone's reaction and the players around him. I just think it's one of the best moments. For me, I'm not just saying this to be sort of, I'm not just saying this to be a maverick or anything. I think it's actually my favourite moment being a Fulham supporter, more so than Wembley in some ways.
Yeah, I get that. It was the getting to, obviously Wembley was a great day, but getting to Wembley was not far behind it for me either. And when the ball skidded off his head and he landed and he didn't even see it go in, did he? The angle that he connected with that ball, he was looking almost towards the cottage and landed facing the cottage, but he must have just heard the crowd go up and it looped in. And again, I was jumping into strangers' arms, everybody swinging each other around, going mad in the Hammersmith end. It was brilliant.
Yeah, and just the angle is actually something that is really to be praised for. I mean, I think Neeskens Cabano almost actually got away with that in the last game of the Championship the other day. It was very similar sort of header and the angle. Millwall, that was it, yeah. I've never... Just an amazing header and just that amazing sort of leap that he always practices doing for such a short guy. I say short, he's 5'10", I'm the same height.
Did you go on the pitch?
I did. But I did it quite late. I think I said this before. I did it quite late. So as soon as I got on, we were ushered off. But I still had my moment. It was nice. I was being very sort of coy and well advised. You might have, we didn't even know each other then. You could have just pushed, you could be the ones that pushed me out of the way.
No, none of that going on. I remember saying to myself, I'm not going on the pitch because I remember Reading fans doing it the year before and then not going up and me thinking, what a bunch of knobheads. And then as soon as the final whistle went, all of a sudden I was on the pitch. Don't know how I got there.
Yeah. It could be argued as well that Denis Odoi was a huge reason for us getting a bit of vengeance back against Derby as well. Because, I mean, the whole reason that it was very sentimental, that pitch invasion, was what Derby did to us, I believe.
In the 80s, in the early 80s, they ended up ending that match early as well, which really cost us that day, or potentially cost us. We probably wouldn't have scored anyway, but we didn't have the chance to. Would you say that's your favourite Denis memory then?
Yeah, I was a close second would be the goalpost, but definitely the header. It's going to be one of those things that, I mean, it won't be as glamorous as Dempsey's he's going to chip it sort of moment, but I think it definitely will be up there. It won't be as glamorous because it wasn't the Premier League, it wasn't a European final that we were off to, but for me, I think it's up there in the top 5. One of the most impressive moments in our history, personally.
Same, absolutely, same for me. All right, well, let's come on to his career then. I want you to rate his Fulham career out of 10 so far.
I'm going to give him a 9 just because I love him so much. I think he's just one of the, again, like a big symbol for what Fulham's all about. And you know what? He's not perfect. I had a bit of a decision to make recently where I was going to get a name on the shirt for the first time, and it was either going to be Stefan Johansson or Denis Odoi. And I just think Denis Odoi has aged like a fine wine with our squad, and I think he's really, really, really classy individual. And I'm going to give him a 9. I think.
I think for me, I'm going to give Denis. Going to give him an 8. And probably if it hadn't have been for the goal that he scored against Derby and the crossbar moment, it probably would have been a 7. But those moments are obviously massive moments in the history of the club now. But I think he's a solid player. He's not spectacular, but he's solid, and he's like you say, he almost epitomises Fulham in the way that he plays. I think, like you say, he's not perfect, but he's a hard worker, and for me, it's a 7 out of 10 for Denis.
Yeah, and you know what? Sorry to just say one more thing. 134 appearances for us. That's not a small deal. That's a good thing. That's a big thing. And there are players like Mitrovic who are a lot glossier, Premier League quality, has scored all the goals. But I wouldn't say Mitrovic has had a Hall of Fame moment like Denis Odoi. So that's, again, just justifying my reason for Denis Odoi being a 9, just for that amazing memory.
Fair play. All right, mate. Well, we're going to do something a little bit different now. I have prepared some stats to have a look at how the current Fulham side compare with other successful second-tier Fulham sides in recent history. And I do consider the current side to be successful, as we are currently third in the table. These are taking me absolutely bloody ages, and I'm not sure it's really going to justify the time it's taken me. But let's see how it goes anyway. So I've looked at some data from the 2000 and 2001 Division 1 Championship winning side under Jean Tigana. Data from the 16-17 season when Slav took us to the playoff semi-finals when we lost against Reading. And data from the 17-18 season when we were promoted with Slav at Wembley, as we've just talked about. And of course, this season under Scott Parker as well. And the kind of idea behind it is to see how the current side compares with how these other successful sides have done. So looking at our home form, so far this season, we've had 10 home wins, which is as many as we had in the 16-17 playoff semi-final season. So we've had as many home wins this season already. We've already had as many defeats as well. We've had 5 defeats at home. We've only scored 29 games at home so far this season, though. We've got 6 games to go, though. The lowest return out of those 4 seasons that I've mentioned was in 2017-18 when we went up with Slav and we scored 40, so we're still 11 behind that. For some context, in 2000 and 2001, we scored 49 goals at home. But obviously we had Saha, Boa Morse, Hales, all banging them in every week. Away from home this season, we've got 6 away wins, 6 draws and 4 defeats. We've only scored 18 goals, though. We scored 39 away from home in 17-18, 40 away from home in 16-17, and 41 in 2000-2001. So straight away, that is quite a big difference. We're just not scoring enough goals away from home. Although we do, again, still have 7 games to go. We've only conceded 15, though. In 2017-18, we conceded 29, and we conceded 25 in 16-17 and 18 in the Tigana promotion season. So basically, our games away from home aren't seeing many goals at all. We're quite tight at the back, but we're also not very prolific going forward. The goal difference is plus 11 this season, which is positive. But when compared with the other seasons, in 2000, 2001, we had plus 58 at the end of the season, which is ridiculous. In 16-17, it was plus 28. And in 17-18, it was plus 33. So we are still quite a way behind those seasons at the moment. As I said, we've still got a few games left, but I probably can't see us in our last 7 away games scoring 20-odd goals to catch up.
No way.
So there's a real kind of imbalance there. Not to say that we're not going to be successful this season. We've just done it differently, and I think it shows that this season hasn't really been that entertaining in comparison to the other ones.
No, not at all. And there are a number of reasons why I believe it's not working. But to be honest, it's such a weird season, mate, because basically this Scott Parker's season this season has been better than both of Slavisa's seasons in the Championship at this point. He's got more points and in a higher position, and yet we're all bored shitless. It's really strange.
Well, that comes nicely onto my next point, and I'm going to talk about win margins from those 4 seasons. This season, we've won by a 2-goal margin just twice. So, maybe 3-1 or 2-0 or whatever. We've won by a 3-goal margin just twice, and we've won by a 4-goal margin just the once. That was that Millwall game at the start of the season. That means that we've only won 5 games by more than 1 goal so far this season.
Yeah.
We have won by a 1-goal margin 11 times. So we are still getting the wins, as we know, but we're just not putting teams to the sword. And I thought it was interesting to compare this season to those other seasons. In the 2000-2001 Tigana season, again, this season was something of an anomaly because we were an absolutely outstanding team. I'd go so far as to say that Tigana season actually is the best team that the Championship or second tier has ever seen. Those players are absolutely unbelievable, and to have them all in the same team at once, we were unstoppable that season. We won that season. We won by one goal 7 times. 2 goals 15 times, 3 goals 6 times, 4 goals once, and 5 goals once. And the real stat here is the fact that we've only won by a 1-goal margin 11 times this season, and 2-goal margin twice. But even the 16-17 Slav playoff semi-final defeat side, they won by a 2-goal margin 11 times. And then the promotion team through the playoffs the season after won by a 2-goal margin 10 times. And this team's only done it twice. So, we really are treading on thin ice, I think. And it's a wonder that we don't concede more late goals, to be honest, and throw more points away. But anyway, that's win margins. Now, this one is interesting, where the goals come from. Now, this season, we've been very light on goals, with just 9 goals from midfield. Tom Cairney's got 7 of those, most of which have come from distance. Yeah. Bobby Reid got 1 of them when he was playing in midfield, and Josh Onomar got that one against Leeds. But otherwise, where are the goals coming from in midfield? It's just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it is ridiculous.
Stefan Johansson used to get in the box loads in the Slav promotion season and the season before that. He got 8 when we went up last time. He barely gets a sniff this season. I don't know why that is. Obviously, he's not in the team every week, but when he is in the team, he's never in or around the box looking to, pick up breadcrumbs and stick the ball in the net.
Well, the thing is, while Josh Onomar is Scott Parker's favourite prodigal son, then I'm afraid Stefan Johansson pretty won't get many sniffs, I'm afraid. It's what you say is true, and it's just we don't. You watch the goals that we sort of scored under the Slavisa Jokanovic in the promotion season. I know we should stop comparing this, but the amount of bodies in the box, midfielders, and four of our players in the box every time a cross goes in, and you just don't see that anymore. You don't see it at all. And I think Stefan Johansson is hopefully something we'll actually see in the derby game this Friday.
Even if he is in the team, though, I feel like the fact that you've got Cavallero and Knockaert trying to do everything down the wings, it often bypasses a lot of what we're trying to do in the middle. And players like Johansson and even Cairney to a certain extent, just don't get on the ball enough, because you've got these players who think that they need to do everything.
Well, it's funny you say, they're doing everything on the wings. For the past about 3 or 4 games in my mind now, I just feel like we haven't had any wingers. It feels like we've always got 9 players on the pitch, because they're always trying to do so many things, but we have no fullbacks overlapping. So it's just, you've got fullbacks that don't really want to bomb forward, apart from Joe Bryan, who's like the Philippe Senderos of fullbacks. He does what he wants. If he goes forward, he doesn't really need to go back. He's just somehow, just doesn't mind. But I mean, there is just no overlapping of fullbacks, and the wingers cut in, so it just makes absolutely us look so blunt. It's unbelievable, and it's just so frustrating to watch and boring.
I think that's a good word to describe the season so far. We've been all right, but we do look a bit blunt. You're right. In 2016-17, we scored 34 goals from midfield that season. This season we've scored 9. It's just absolutely crazy. Talking about Joe Bryan and defenders as well, Bryan scored 5 goals in 43 games for Bristol City the season before he joined us, from a similar position to the one he now plays in. He gets forward and is involved in a lot of attacks. He just doesn't score enough goals for me for the amount he gets forward. Do you think he's effective enough going forwards? And by effective, I mean, does he contribute enough? He's always there or thereabouts, and he's got a few assists, but would you like to see some more goals from him?
I'd like to see some more goals from him for sure. I mean, before that last piece of crap game we had against Barnsley, I think he got three assists in 3 games. But we're not seeing enough of it. And, when he does bomb on forward, am I impressed all the time? Not really. I'd say every time Joe Bryan does go forward, I think he looks pretty good about maybe 6 times out of 10, maybe 5. He wasn't, he was moved back from the winger position by Lee Johnson many years ago because he failed to take men on very successfully, and they moved to left back. But even Bristol players, even Bristol fans are now saying that Joe Bryan's more of a wing back than a full back. So, and we haven't really played Joe Bryan in that position because we haven't done 5 at the back enough as a sort of plan A. It's always been something that we do at the last minute to hold on to a game rather than go forward.
True, that's very true. Yeah, it's not the traditional kind of wing backs when we've got 5 at the back, is it? It's like it's just try and shut up shop. To come on to another fullback that we once had, Steve Finnan was the perfect example of balancing attack and defence back in the 2000-2001 Tigana season. He only got 2 goals himself that season, but he was absolutely superb and a real anomaly at this level. And of course, he went on to win the Champions League with Liverpool later on in his career as well. And we can't expect those sort of players to come around and be in our team, every couple of seasons. But in 16-17, Scott Malone scored 6 goals in 36 games from a similar position to the one Joe Bryan plays in. He used to get forward a lot. Of course, he's now at Derby, but that season was his most prolific season in front of goal. And that contributed that season to the fact that our defenders scored 12 of our goals that season. We've got 1 goal from defence this season, Joe Bryan against Wigan. Why aren't our defenders scoring more goals? And obviously from corners, we're crap at set pieces. Why are we so bad at set pieces? That's the sort of thing you can practice. And I know defenders can practice that sort of thing as well and getting in the right position. But surely with the height that we've now got with Michael Hector, a decent delivery in the box has to be a threat. Ream and Mawson have been no threat whatsoever this season from corners. They haven't never looked like scoring. As I said, Hector's height is an advantage. And set-piece goals would take a lot of pressure off of the forwards.
Yeah, it's only a matter of time. I think we will see a headed goal from Hector this season. He is actually moving forward and wanting to get into that box from open play, not just for set pieces, which is good to see. And the less said about Alfie Mawson, the better in my eye. I mean, I can't be asked.
But if we could score from the odd set piece every now and then it would make up for the fact that a lot of the play that we play is pretty turgid. And dull, because we beat teams by not allowing them to have the ball rather than battering teams off of the park. And that's the win margins stats that I just gave you a minute ago proves that.
Well, that's why we always have short corners, and it's just I'll say the word again, boring thing to watch. I think the amount of corners we've taken that have gone short and ended back to the goalkeeper. I mean, it's just like you just want to scream. I mean, I don't know.
It is frustrating. Yeah. I'll just give you this stat as well. So this is the total number of players that have scored for Fulham by season in those 4 seasons. So in 2000-2001, 13 players scored for Fulham. In 2016-17, 16 players scored for Fulham. In 2017-18, 15 players scored for Fulham. This season, just 8 players have scored for us. 5 of them have been, playing forward. And then, as I said, Cairney and Onoma and Bobby Reid are the only players who have scored from midfield. And obviously Joe Bryan as well from defence. The rest have been forwards. 8 players is really poor. That is very low. To conclude these stats, they highlight that we're too reliant on the forwards to get the goals. Our past successful teams have spread the goals out throughout the team. Joe Bryan should be scoring more goals considering how often he gets forward and actually how often he shoots as well. He has the odd shot every now and then. We don't score enough goals and we seem happy to settle for narrow wins. Why was that Millwall game so early on in the season such an anomaly and not a trendsetter? Why haven't we kicked on from that and really gone on to batter some teams? I don't understand it. In the past seasons, we've happily put teams to the sword or at least comfortably won. Our set pieces are ineffective. What else is new? They have been for quite a long time now. They often were in the Premier League as well. But in this squad, all the elements are there to really, really score a lot of goals, but something's holding us back, which hasn't been there in previous seasons, according to the statistics.
Well, it's Scott Parker. Sorry to interrupt.
I was just about to say, is it simply an experienced manager, or is it that the players bought for Scott by Tony clash with the style that Scott's trying to play? For example, as I said, Cavallero and Knockaert are selfish players in comparison to the likes of Ryan Sessegnon. And I wonder to myself, would we have been better off this season had Sess decided to stay? And I feel like he would have been a better fit to play alongside Mitro than the likes of Knockaert, because he gets in scoring positions and allows the midfielders to be the creative influence rather than trying to do it all himself. I know you were obviously a big fan of Sess. What do you think? Will we have been better with him this season?
I think, 100% we'd be better with him. I mean, this is more his level for the age that he's at. He's not really getting much of a sniff at Tottenham at the moment, but he is under Jose Mourinho, so he's getting world-class sort of mentorship, as it were. But I think, Sessegnon staying would have been great, not just for the skill that he provides, the relationship he has with Mitrovic, but also just the camaraderie and knowing the club very well. I think that's priceless, and I think him and Joe Bryan could have linked up beautifully, actually.
Yeah, I think so. I feel like the positions that he took up in the box just lent himself to getting on the end of things and allowing midfielders to come into the game more rather than, just watching Cavallero and Knockaert run it from box to box and have a shot and see where it ends up and see if Mitrovic can stick his leg out and get on the end of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Sess was the smartest player, one of the smartest players we had that season, and he was so young. He was just such a clever player. I mean, much smarter, in my opinion, than Cavallero. I think Cavallero's more technically gifted because he's older and got that edge to him, but Sessegnon was smart, in the right place, right time, acted like a striker, but was a left-back winger. Incredible. And, we do miss him 100%. You're an idiot. If anyone's an idiot if they said they didn't.
Yeah, of course. He was top class, really, really good player. All right, mate. Well, thanks for sticking with that. I wanted to have a look at some stats and just see how we did fare up to previous seasons. But let's get on with the derby preview now.
Fulham.
All right, mate. It's another Friday night match. Do you like a Friday night match?
Well, I think Sky do for us, definitely. we've had, it's been nothing but Friday night games. But no, I think Friday night games are brilliant. Some of our best memories for Fulham have come under the lights on a Friday night, and long may them rain. But I'm not sure about the match, to be honest with you. Even though Derby are having an up and down season, I do fear for us this game.
Well, on Friday nights this season, we've played 6 times so far, and we've won all 3 of our home games against Wigan, QPR and Middlesbrough. And we're undefeated away as well. We've won 2 at Huddersfield and Swansea, and then we drew at Cardiff that night when Harry Arter was a prick. Doesn't really narrow it down, but the night when he got sent off, let's put it that way. So our record on Friday nights is pretty good. So with a little bit of luck, we'll carry that on to Pride Park this weekend. But in order to do that, it's going to take Marit Rodak to come out of this horrible little spell that he had on Saturday. He had an absolute stinker. And I think this is where we'll see his strength of character. Do you think he'll bounce back? Because at the end of the day, we're all human beings and we're all capable of making mistakes, and sometimes we all get it wrong.
I do think he very likely will bounce back. My only concern is, the only worrying thing is that all 3 goals, that sounded like I said girls, not all girls, all 3 goals, all 3 goals were his fault. I mean, all 3 are huge errors. And, he just looks like Jordan Archer out there that game. So I am a bit concerned. Hopefully his mentality, I think he is strong enough to come back from this. You've seen what he's like when, he concedes a goal in the past and he gets furious with his back line and himself. His passion is there. I think he'll come through for this one.
I think we'll have a big performance from him this week, and he'll just have to draw a line under that performance. But the good thing is that it was 3 mistakes all made in one game, and it's the same 3 points. Whereas if he made those 3 mistakes in 3 consecutive games and cost us three games and 9 points, then it would be a worry. But hopefully he's got it out of his system, and he can carry on with having a magnificent season that he is having. After that abysmal result on Saturday, I think this match is also going to show what character this team has, as well as just Marek Rodak individually. We've bounced back from awful results in the past this season. For example, we faced Leeds at home off the back of 3 defeats in a row, and we got the points that afternoon just before Christmas. We also bounced back from a 3-0 defeat at home to Hull by winning at Birmingham the following week. I feel like this team doesn't get the credit it deserves sometimes, and Scott Parker particularly carries the can when we lose, but gets no praise during our unbeaten mini runs, if you like. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. And I'm guilty of this. This is the first season where I've been probably a nightmare to all of you in the WhatsApp group because I can't make up my flipping mind all the time on Parker in, Parker out. But the thing is, there's a lot of snobbery in our fan base now after the amazing season we had in 17-18. We've never seen football played like it. Well, I mean, you mentioned Tigana. We obviously had Tigana as well. But we were really spoilt by what Slavisa Jokanovic brought us. So when Parker comes in and plays a similar style to begin with, we all expect the same thing, and it's just not. He's far more pragmatic, and it's an arguable case that actually his style is just as entertaining as Chris Hughton, which a lot of people are saying wasn't entertaining at all. So I just think there's a lot of snobbery, but there's also a lot of bias towards Scott Parker. A lot of people believe he's a jinx. A lot of people believe that he every time he's been with us, we've had bad results or bad luck with this club. I don't think it is fair, in all honesty, but I understand why it's occurring because it is just very painful in the eye to watch. The analogy I always make is just, Tony Khan and his dad bought a Ferrari of a squad for this season to go up straight away, and it's like we gave it to Matt LeBlanc from Top Gear to drive it. And it just doesn't really feel. I think and everyone always says, "Oh, Scott Parker, he's going to be a great manager. Though he's going to be a great manager." Yeah, that's great. I'm sure he will, but I'd like it when he's with us. And I don't think we're going to see. I don't know. There's a part of me that really wants him to stay another season and prove everyone wrong and be like what the Norwich manager was that got them promoted the second season he was there.
Yeah, one of the things about me, mate, is that I get quite frustrated with all the talk of Parker being sacked every time we lose a single game. And as I said earlier, he gets no praise when we win. On this very show this season, me, you, all the other lads, Will, Matt Dom, Baldo, Don, etc., consistently rate Scott Parker generally between a 7 and a 9 most weeks, unless we do have a crap week, like we did last week when you guys gave him 2.5, which was perfectly justified because that was a terrible result. But generally, the scores are quite high. So with this in mind, why is the word sack even being mentioned?
Because of the expectation, because of how we have this belief that we belong in the Premier League, which we do because of the money we've spent. I guess. It's because it's the Ferrari analogy that I made. It's just the fact that we expected this team to be blowing teams out of the water in this league. And I think, maybe we're wrong. It's either one or two things. It's either that Scott Parker is actually doing a very good job and the players actually just aren't as good as we thought they are, or Scott Parker is completely the wrong guy for this, and we should be winning the 5-0s, the 8-0s, the 3-0s, like you've been alluding to, that should be counterpart to the stats that you've just mentioned before.
That's the thing, though. That Millwall game, what did we have? So 80% possession and beat Millwall 4-0. We barely gave them the ball, and we scored plenty of goals. Why haven't we been doing that more? I just don't get it, because it's obviously within these players to do that.
Yeah.
But if you and I could answer that question, then we'd be working in football.
But I know what Scott Parker wants. I can see what he wants. You can see him on the side of the pitch. He wants everything quicker. He wants transitions quicker, but we just don't give it to him. We don't give him those quick transitions. I think personally, something we might have gone a bit, possibly, this is the only thing I can think of to be on his side slightly, that we gave him the wrong assistant manager. Stuart Gray's fine, but that Briggs fellow, whoever his name is from the Tottenham coaching thing, as good reputation as he might have been the wrong choice to be alongside Scott Parker. You can't have 2 out of 3 managers, assistant managers being that inexperienced in the game, in my opinion.
Maybe. All right. Well, we'll have to in a 2-3 months' time. We'll know more. We'll know where the land lies, and whether or not we're looking like we're going to be heading back to the Premier League or not. And I think that will go a long way to determine Scott Parker's future at the club. Let's look at Stato's stats, shall we?
Yes.
You've listened to me prattle on about numbers and stats, so I'm going to hand over to you for this one.
Yep, no worries at all. Yeah, Stato's done a great job, actually. We're talking about the season.
Always does.
He always does. He's great lad. But Derby have had a weird season, very topsy-turvy. And, they've got an amazing manager, Philip Koku, who is the type of manager that we should have really been crying out for. Very Slavica, Jukanovic-esque, and that sort of, that sort of Dutch style of play. Just really, really good manager who believes in the passing game, possession, football, and just, very nice to watch and easy on the eye. But since I'm just looking at their stats, they've had a really weird time of it. They're currently sitting in 13th on 44 points, and that's 8 points away from the playoffs, and that's a pretty underwhelming season. It's overshadowed by obvious off-the-field incidents, which we won't go into too much. They lost Frank Lampard after the summer, after narrowly missing out on the promotion in the playoff final, and then they've now replaced it with good old Koku himself. But they got off to a rocky start, winning just 2 of their first 10 opening games. Just their form hasn't been very good. But yeah, so when Wayne Rooney arrived, he was instantly named club captain. And then since then, the Derby form has dramatically improved. At the age of 34, Rooney now plays in a deeper midfield playmaker role, but despite his age, he has played 90 minutes in all but one game that he's played in. Always evergreen and always keen just to play football. But before he joined, Derby had played 25 games, won 7, drawn 9, lost 9, and that's a win percentage of just 28%. And now since he's come in, they've played 8 games, won 4, drawn 2, and lost 2, and that's a win percentage of 50%. So that there has been a big change there. I mean, and he is a key player for them. Like I said, he's had 2 goals and 2 assists in 8 games, averaging 1.1 key passes per game and 1.9 shots per game. And he's especially dangerous from set pieces, something we're actually a bit shit at conceding. So I mean, every now and then. So we'll see how we get on there. The last time out, I mean, what did we beat? We won 3-0 at the Cottage back in November. That was it. That was a great game, actually. I remember that's one of the best performances we've had this season, I think, personally. This is the last time Fulham actually won a game by more than 1 goal. So it's actually very interesting to be playing them again when we've been talking about how we're so devoid and blunt at the moment. But, it was a typical performance from Fulham. It was 62% possession that game, 678 passes, of which 596 of them are short passes. And, Derby failed to register a single shot on target against us. And, it's their home form that's significantly better than their away form, and that's why I'm worried about this game. I mean, they've only lost 2 home games all season. That's massive. They've won 5 out of 6 home games, only drawing against Huddersfield in their most recent game, and they've kept 7 clean sheets in 14 home games, only conceding 12 goals, and they have only scored 1.4 goals per game, which is lower than the league average of 1.43. So it's going to be a funny one. It's going to be a really funny one. And as what you were talking about earlier with, us bouncing back from this, Merritt Rodak, the team, it's our bounce back ability that Statos pointed out, which is really interesting read. We have now lost 9 games this season, and it's just interesting to see how we've reacted after losing a game. So our first loss, which was Barnsley away, which is the fucking first game of the season, we responded by going on a 3-game winning run, so that's cool. The second loss was Nottingham Forest at home, and we responded by that going on a 6-game unbeaten run. That was 4 draws and 2 wins. The third loss was Stoke away, and we responded by winning our next game against Luton. But then we drew 0-0 with Borough before that. Our fourth loss was just Hull at home. We responded by winning 4 in a row. and then 5th, 6th, and 7th losses, and then we went 3 on the bounce against Bristol, Preston, and Brentford. So basically, what I'm trying to say is, and what Stato obviously is trying to say, that when we lose a game, a big loss, an unexpected loss, we do respond with a 2 or 3 game spurts. So there is every reason to be positive, but at the same time, by judging, if you actually watch how we performed against Barnsley, there are lots of reasons to be fucking shitting ourselves as well, to be honest. So
I think that defeat last weekend will be a massive kick up the arse to this team.
Yeah,
they'll be embarrassed and they'll be hurting after losing that game. Bottom of the league, when we're level on points with second, we're right there on the brink of catching leads, and then to do that against a team bottom of the league in the way that we did it, I think there has to be a reaction this weekend. There has to be.
Yeah, and Stato's mentioned here as well. I mean, this could actually be the biggest psychological test we've faced, just because of, it's Derby, it's the bottom of the table, and it's 3-0, and it's the second time we've lost to them. So, I mean, yeah, it's a big one. The attack that we actually put out against Derby in the last game, one of our best performances of the season, was Cavallero, Mitrovic, and Kamara, and that was with Bobby playing as a number 10 behind Mitro, which I think is actually his best position. The Bristol City fans will certainly tell you that. So, I mean, maybe that's our best attack to face for this game. But I would also like to see Stefan Johansson for sure make a return down in the middle somewhere.
Bobby Reid just flatters to deceive for me sometimes. He's threatened to be a good player this season, but it's just not really happened for him so far. And I feel like he's a bit lightweight and he's knocked off the ball too easily. And if he's not running in behind players, then I don't really see what he does, if I'm honest. He doesn't score enough goals, that's for sure.
Well, I just don't think we've played him in his best position. I mean, I just think he's
played in every position, but in goal, hasn't he, this season?
Yeah, pretty much. But as a winger, I don't really buy it. He connects everything up quite nicely, and as a striker, he's just not accurate enough and just no confidence enough in my opinion. But I just think as a number 10, as a sort of Tom Cairney role, just basically Bobby Reid was a luxury player. I think that it was a bit of an Andre Schürrle, except he's a lot better in the sense that
we're used to watching Tom Cairney at this level. When we came up 17-18, Tom Cairney in the attacking midfield role was outstanding. He was brilliant. Bobby Reid in that role isn't Tom Cairney of 2 years ago. Tom Cairney arguably isn't Tom Cairney of 2 years ago either. But that's, we know what we're looking for. We know what we want to see in that position. Ryan Sessegnon, another player who could either play out wide or up front. And Bobby Reid isn't fit to lace Sessegnon's boots at this level either, because Sessegnon was absolutely outstanding. And that's what we're kind of used to seeing at this level. We're used to seeing the way that Sessegnon played and the way Cairney played 2 years ago. And we're not getting that this season, and it's only natural to compare the likes of Bobby Reid to that season and how we looked that season. It's nowhere near it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I don't know what's going to happen with Tom Cairney next season. I don't personally think he's going to stay with us. I think there's something wrong there. I
can't see how he'd leave though. He's on a long-term contract and he hasn't been playing well. So who's going to pay to break that contract?
I don't know.
Unless maybe he left on loan.
I think the only way Tom Cairney would leave would be for a team that has just been promoted or a team that has just come down and looks at his stats in the past and as a sort of Ross McCormack-y sort of option. He can do a job at this level to make us come back up again. But if the rumours are to be believed that financial fair play could really screw us up next season, then we would need Tom Cairney off the wage bill slightly, especially if he's not playing to the standard that he used to. I just think it might be curtains for him soon. It's sad to say, but I think it might be.
I hope you're wrong, but the way he's playing this season, I've got to say, I've loved him in the past, but I wouldn't miss him the way he's playing at the moment. I wouldn't.
Yeah, me too. It's sad to say, isn't it? It's very sad.
Speaking of somebody I don't miss, I see Chris Martin still playing up front for Derby. He's got 7 goals this season and 3 assists.
Is it 7 goals he's got?
Yeah.
That's quite a lot for him.
When I was putting those stats together the other day, I was really surprised to see he scored 10 goals for us in 16-17. I didn't realise.
Well, I mean, who else have they got? They got Martin Waghorn as well. I mean, he's got 11 goals and 1 assist. That's pretty good as well. I don't know. I could not call where it's going to go this game. I don't know what sort of front foot, back foot, what sort of foot Parker will want for it. I mean, I know what we want, front foot, and just go all out guns blazing. But
you're going to have to call it. You're going to have to call it, because let's do a score prediction.
I'm really sorry. I think they're going to win 2-1. Really, really sorry.
I hope you're wrong. I mean, last time we went out there was the playoff semi-final, and they beat us 1-0 somehow. I don't know quite how they beat us 1-0, and obviously we turned them over in the second leg. But that game was a really frustrating game, and it'll go down as the game where we had all those corners and just kept on taking short corners, just thinking, get the bloody ball into the box. But we obviously went there with a game plan, but it was so frustrating to watch.
Am I allowed to do that? Am I allowed to say, predict we're going to lose? I don't think anyone's done that before, and I'm just worried that I look like a dick now.
Well, you have. You've done it. You're allowed to say what you want. It's your score prediction.
Well, I don't know. I'm just worried. I know, I'm always worried. But if we did lose this, there's every chance we could actually be 7th place and out of the playoffs, and then psychologically things could just get worse and more slippery for us. But who knows? We could absolutely smash them. Here's hoping.
I think we'll win this one. I think we'll bounce back. I think I usually predict a win. I can't remember ever predicting anything but a win. But I think a 2-0, big performance from Rodak in goal, couple of cracking saves to win us the points, and then it'll be our first victory by more than one goal since last time we played them. I really think I feel confident. I always feel confident. I don't know why. It's based on nothing. Other than just blind optimism. But anyway, I'm going to say 2-0.
All right, nice one.
All right, mate. Well, I think we'll leave it there, shall we? Thanks to everybody for listening to us this week. The plan at the moment is for Jmac and I, and hopefully Will, to record a Derby reaction show on Saturday, which will hopefully land in your podcast apps on Sunday morning. Either way, it should be with you for your Monday morning commute. Safe travels for everyone heading up on Friday night, and don't forget to bring the points home with you. Speak to you soon. Cheers.
Fulham.